Hello, Noah here, and welcome to me and Net's respective conflict of interest and contempt of court character tier list. So, yeah, we're just going to get straight into it. So let's talk about Eden Books, right?
Edmund Books.
Edmund Books. Why did I say Eden Books? Edmund Books. All right, so for me, personally, I think he's just kind of a meh character. Like, I don't know. Like, I definitely grew to like him more as the case went along, but he really got on my nerves within the first few minutes of his introduction, if you guys remember that. That was pretty rough. So, yeah, I'm going to put Edmund Books in meh tier / who tier. Next. So,
hey, everyone.
Hello,
YouTube. Glad to be back, and sorry I've been away for so long. Before I get into it, I do want to say Noah and I will find some time in the near future to continue recording the Dragon's Turnabout, if any of you have been waiting for that.
Oh, yes, I was about to say that. It completely slipped my mind. Also, I forgot to go over the tiers. What is wrong with me? Alright, so, for the tiers we have, at the top we have Too Good for Capcom. That's pretty self-explanatory. The Capcom would never make these characters because they're so good. Next we have Amazing tier, which is self-explanatory. Good is self-explanatory. Meh / who tier is basically, I don't really care about this character, or I don't remember who this character is. And then Needs a Rewrite is pretty self-explanatory. So those are the tiers. Net, where are you going to put Edmund Books?
Prior to recording, Noah and I did talk about whether we should have separate tier lists or come to an agreement, and I'm glad we have separate tier lists because already I'm gonna place Edmund Books. I'm gonna put Edmund Books in Amazing.
Oh man! All right.
He was such a fun poke parody of the elements of the Ace Attorney fan base that are the easiest to make fun of, such as people who ride or die with Maya and reject other ships for Nick, as well as saying that Nick is better than Apollo. And his extreme fanboying for Phoenix it made me laugh. And God, the line during the trial on the second day, where during the recess, he said about the masked woman, he said, "Come on, Mr. Wright, that person was a guy. There aren't any girls on the internet."
Okay, I'll admit, you know what? That's convinced me to move him up a little bit. He was pretty fun. Okay, so...
Oh my.
Alright, so...
Okay.
Alright, so, what else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I was gonna ask, when did you get into Ace Attorney again?
2015.
Okay, so I wonder, like, because in modern day, Apollo Justice is seen quite more favorably in the general fandom, so I wonder what it was like back then when those games started coming out. I wonder how divisive it really was.
How much indeed. Recently, I saw a playthrough of the entire Apollo Justice game by a YouTuber. I don't know if you've seen any of their name pop up in your recommended list. Her name is Crystal with a bunch of capital A's.
Oh, yes! Yes. I recognize her from watching her Great Ace Attorney playthrough.
Well, she recently played through all of Apollo Justice, and she titled the video, "I thought this game was supposed to be about Apollo Justice."
Oh, yeah. I'll admit, as much as I love that game, it really puts Apollo on the sidelines.
And there's discussion in her comments thread about Capcom's interference.
Oh yeah, that's right, because Shu Takumi didn't want to have Phoenix Wright anymore, but Capcom said that they had to put Phoenix Wright back in there. So
exactly. Anyway.
We're getting off on a tangent. This video is going to be so long. Okay, so next character we have a role Brisbane. For me, I would put him in amazing. I don't think he's too good for Capcom, but he does have a really nice character arc, and he's very funny. Like, he's an extremely funny prosecutor. I find his insults pretty funny, and the way that he screams is also pretty funny in my opinion. So, yeah, I really like Brisbane. I don't really have much else to say. Like, I don't know. I just think he's a pretty good character. All right, what do you think?
And I agree. I would put him in amazing also. I like that his nature is born out of not just the smoldering ruins of his nervous, timid innocence, but also the fact that a hate sink like Manfred von Karma used that vulnerability of his and used that hurt, that state of pain that he was in, upon getting his eye taken out, you instructing him to channel his anger into being, well, an over-the-top version of Manfred, I guess you could say. So,
sorry.
It's tragic how Errol became the prosecutor that he became, and as much as it may be sad to see him retire by the end of the game, we all agree that it's for the best for him.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of awkward because all I had to say about a role Brisbane was that he was funny, and you had like an entire essay on what you liked about him. So that, well, yeah,
it's all right. That's why you brought me on board. We have, because we're making separate tier lists, we can each say different things, and the fan base can agree with one of us or the other.
All right, next we have Cedric Mapplethorpe. Now, to be honest, I think if I made this tier list when I was playing the Haunted Turnabout, he would go and needs a rewrite, because that case just made me so upset for a few reasons. But I'm honestly going to put him in good tier. I think he's a pretty good villain, or pretty good culprit. He's kind of a villain, yeah. But I really find his manner of speaking pretty interesting, and I find his character interesting, and he has a really cool breakdown. And if a character has a really cool breakdown, that's going to give them a few brownie points. So that's what I have to say about Cedric Mapplethorpe.
Sounds good. I agree. He's better than meh. So I would put him in good tier also. His backstory is extremely heartbreaking, and his motivations for the work he was doing and what led to the crime he committed is also very, very tragic. And yes, I agree that the Haunted Turnabout, it took a while to get going. It took a while to get traction. It really, until maybe you meet the defendant, the case drags.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the lack of music, but things seem just so slow, and you're in a hotel, yet it doesn't feel like it. Yeah, it's supposed to be haunted, but there are people there, and it doesn't feel like there is.
Yeah, I see. The case feels, lack for a better of a word, lifeless, I guess. But not like so extreme, but just like a little. There's not a lot of personality, I guess. It's not very energetic.
Partially.
It's pretty slow.
And it's partially because we lose Maya.
Yes. I feel like if Maya was in the Haunted Turnabout, that would definitely bring like a bit of flavor and life to the case, where all you have is Phoenix, and Phoenix can be pretty pessimistic at times, or I guess realistic is more of a better term, but you don't really have that bubbly, cheery girl for him to bounce off of. So it's kind of just him.
By himself, because he is the main character, there has to be some level of blandness to him.
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked about that character enough. Next we have, I'm going to be honest, I do not remember this character's name. My best guess would be probably Jack Crane. I remember that vaguely, but I'm honestly not sure who this is. So I'm going to put that character in that tier.
No, I'm looking it up, and let's see, Contempt of Court.
Wait, no, Jack Crane was Jack Crane was the friend of Roll Brisbane. Never mind. So yeah, I literally have no idea who this character is.
It wasn't that. No, he was not. Did you say he was Errol Brisbane's friend?
I said that Jack Crane is Errol Brisbane's friend. I don't know who this is, to be honest. I think he was the victim of. He was a victim of Hemlock at some point. I think. Man, I have such bad memory.
Well, I'm looking at the TV tropes page, and Jack Crane does not have a profile picture, so I would believe it if that was him, and that would make him the stepbrother of Vex Volper.
Yeah.
So, assuming this is Jack Crane, I'm okay with putting him in meh as much as his existence does kickstart the plot of Contempt of Court.
Yeah, that is true. I don't think this is Jack Crane. I think this is the victim in the library in the flashback scene with Renwick Smith. I think that's who this is.
Okay.
So, I think it would be appropriate to put him in meh because I honestly struggled to remember him for a bit there.
Very well.
All right, so you feel the same?
Oh wait a minute.
Oh,
the person who was found behind the bookcase, they do have a name.
Yes.
His name was Blain Chill.
Blain Chill. That does ring a bell, and I think that's who this is. All right.
And yeah, I would. The meh is as good as that character gets.
Yeah.
For me too.
All right. So next we have Perry Docks, and honestly, I wouldn't say that he's meh, but he doesn't have any screen time. He's only a victim, but because of his connection to Terry Grayson, I feel like that bumps him up a little bit. I wouldn't really put him in good tier, but I would just say meh, but a more positive meh. He's there, he has some plot relevance, but he just doesn't have enough screen time. So yeah.
Indeed, I'm looking at his. I forgot what his role in the game was, so I'm reading up on what he contributed to the story, and because I had to look it up, he needs to be put in meh for me as well. So there you go. No, I won't have an essay for every character.
Okay, good. I don't want to look amateur, I guess. But next we have, here's a big one. This is spoilers for Conflict of Interest, but if you're watching this video, I'm going to assume you've already watched Conflict of Interest. Carlo Luciano, immediately too good for Capitan. He is such a good villain, and I remember at the end of Turnabout Into the Unknown, I made some comments about how I think that he wasn't as good as Hemlock and that he should have had more screen time as a villain, and I do still think that to a certain degree, but I think that his presence and his breakdown, especially with net voice acting, that breakdown, that really bumps him up for me. And then, I just...
No, you let me influence you too much.
What? Okay. Well, okay, but your voice acting for his breakdown was really good. So come on, give yourself some
Thanks.
credit here. So yeah, I would put him in Too Good for Capcom. I think he has a really great presence. I do still think to a degree that he should have had a bit more screen time as the villain before he got revealed. So that's what I have to say about Carlo Lucian.
I would. He is definitely at least amazing. I'm okay with putting him in Too Good for Capcom. At least off the top of my head, I'm fine with him being there. He deserves mention both as Carlo Luciano and as his disguise, Morty Drei. I don't know. It took a while. Like, I had to. To what extent did I have influence on you speculating that Morty Drei was Luciano? How much of that was a result of me, or were you able to, or would you have started suspecting him without me?
I think a big part of why I started suspecting him was it's the curse of being able to go through editing and see stuff that I missed. So I think regardless of your input, I probably would have started suspecting him at some point, because the editing, going back through editing and having to edit the episodes, shows me stuff that I missed. And seeing the stuff that I missed led me on the path to suspecting him, so.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. Yeah, no, going back and realize and thinking, wait a minute, he was the first to discover the body. Among other things. So the reason I bring that up is because I mentioned this during our recording. It was his presence as a coroner. It was strange to give a character like a coroner an actual face and a name and lines to speak. So it was already bizarre to have Morty Drei around. And it was even crazier how much callousness he had for the dead, with all the tasteless jokes he would come up with. So that certainly brought a different flavor to the environment that we certainly would never see from Capcom. And
yeah, they would never make a character like this, to be honest.
I agree with you in that he had such a reputation as someone who engaged in psychological torture and would break someone down before killing them. We only saw that happen with Francisco Mendírez, and like you said, we would have loved to have seen more.
Yeah, I definitely...
What else?
Sorry for cutting you off. Continue.
The reason I elevate... Okay, spoiler, Hemlock's also gonna go in Too Good for Capcom, but the reason why I think why I elevate him above Hemlock as a villain in terms of effectiveness is because of how much power he is able to wield and how much control over the family he is able to wield with so much less. The fact that he was able to sabotage control of the Rivales family and sabotage the capital that Francisco Mendírez had built up, setting up his allies and making them turn on Mendírez. And all that while never discussing business in person. And never revealing himself, taking Francisco's name, and yet never outing himself as the Dawn. So I thought that made him tremendously effective as a villain.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think for me, it's just kind of like there's pros and cons to both Hemlock and Carlo Luciano. I think for Hemlock, it's that, as you said, Hemlock had much more resources available to him as a villain, so it's kind of understandable, like, how he was able to wield that power, and because he was able to wield that power, we were able to see his, like, direct modus operandi, I guess, with Phoenix, because Hemlock went straight to Phoenix and immediately started working on his plan. But with Carlo Luciano, we don't really see that much from him as a villain, but I think what we do see from him is enough to put him in the Too Good for Capcom tier.
Absolutely. One other thing I'll say: we aren't putting the existing returning characters in tiers, even though to some extent the games take their characters to new places that we will never see from Capcom. I will say one other thing about Luciano: the way in which his plans, his scheming, the impact that it has on the Fay clan, the way that Ropfa was able to tie his villainy to make it woven with some of Maya's character arc. I like that.
Yes, I agree with that. If we were able to put reoccurring characters on here, I would put Phoenix from Conflict of Interest definitely in Too Good for Capcom, and I would definitely put Pearl in Too Good for Capcom, but we can't do that because those characters are not on the tier list. But if they were, they would go in there. So next, we have Schadenfreude. Now, I remember how many times I said Schadenfreude instead of Schadenfreude, and that was quite fun. But I really like this character. I think he's pretty cool. I think that he is a little bit bland, but his breakdown and the way that he gradually gets more angry as the trial goes on for the trial segments that he's in, I think that's pretty entertaining, and his breakdown rivals some of the best breakdowns in the series for me personally. So I would put him at the bottom of amazing. He would be in good without his breakdown, but with his breakdown, that really carries him up to amazing.
Sounds good. I also on a given day would put him either in amazing or good. I'll put him in good for now. It was a bit silly on the... Oh my god, have I forgotten his... I've forgotten the person who made Contempt of Court. I forgot their name.
Solid Gent. It's Solid Gent now.
Right. Solid Gent.
It used to be Mr. Cartivore.
Cartivore.
Yeah.
Right. So it was a bit silly that Solid Gent made
oh, come on.
Uh-oh.
Out of memory. Continue what you were saying. You thought it was silly of Cartivore to what?
I thought it was silly of Solid Gent to make Schadenfreude a bit of a retread of Damon Gant. You see that at the beginning when you first meet him, where he looks like a silent monster towering figure, and then all of a sudden he breaks that character and is joyous the way Damon Gant was at first. That was rather silly for me, but I do agree with you that his the interactions you have with him, particularly in court, are they're a good prelude to male Strongheart. And
yeah.
If you know what I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I also love his theme music. So maybe on another day I'd put him in amazing. Part of the problem with Contempt of Court is that I've just been way more immersed in conflict of interest, so I have more of an attachment to those characters. So sorry, everyone.
I'll admit I'm kind of the same. A lot of the Contempt of Court characters are a bit hazy on my memory, but partly because, you know, I'm pretty sure my Contempt of Court Let's Play started over a year ago now, which is crazy to think about, and also because I've been more immersed in conflict of interest, so a lot of these characters are going to be a little bit hazy, but we'll get through it. All right, so next we have Terry Grayson. I can't remember his real name for the life of me. I think it started with a J, but I really like Terry Grayson. He has a really nice, he has a pretty tragic backstory, and that carries him a little bit. I think he's really funny. I had a lot of fun voice acting him, and if I have fun voice acting a character, that's definitely going to bring them up a few tiers. So for me personally, I would put him in amazing.
Sounds good. Again, my memory of him is hazy, but I do think you did a phenomenal job voicing him. I love what you did for his character, and his real name was James Trent.
I knew it started with a J. Okay, well, so you
it's all right.
Amazing?
Sure.
Okay.
And
nice.
and I agree with what you said. It is. God, bringing down Hemlock was probably the most necessary and cathartic moment of his life.
Yeah. Man, there's a lot to James Trent that I don't really remember that well, but what I do remember is enough to put him in amazing. I like him a lot. He's very funny. Next we have the big one, or one of the big ones, I guess. We have Hemlock. Immediately. Too good for Capcom. Holy shit, he is such a phenomenal villain. He's very sarcastic, and he has pretty dry humor. Like, he keeps that as Detective Snow, or he has that as Detective Snow, and then he keeps it once he drops the persona and goes into Hemlock. So, he's very sarcastic, he has a lot of dry humor, he's very threatening, he's very intimidating. That scene with him in the office, in Nick's office, is one of my favorite scenes out of anything, like, Ace Attorney related. It's such a good scene, and, it's a way better version of the Phantom from Dual Destinies. I'm gonna be, if me and Net ever do a game tier list, Dual Destinies is not gonna be very high, I'll let you know that now. Spoiler alert for whenever that comes out. But I feel like the Hemlock is a much better version of the Phantom because we actually feel the betrayal. It's not just like, oh, this character, Detective Snow, he was killed off and he was replaced by an imposter before we even started the game. No, Detective Snow has been here since the beginning and he is the villain. So I think that really brings him up for me, and he's just such a good villain, and I'm running out of things to say. So Net, you go ahead and talk.
Top tier for me too. He is his best moments are, funnily enough, before the trial.
Yeah.
They are the throughout the ensnared turnabout. I was always just waiting for another phone call from him and just to see more of how he would mess with us. And I agree that when he's finally unmasked in Phoenix's office, it is I remember the impact it had on me the day it happened, and I remember the time in my life where it happened. It was summer 2017 when I first saw that. He, like you said, his humor, his wit, his teasing, it fit. He has a very as you learn his motivations, you see how immature and childlike he is, and that shows in the way he talks.
Oh, you know who he reminds me of, actually? A little bit? He reminds me of Syndrome from The Incredibles, to be honest.
I have never seen the...
Really?
I've never seen The Incredibles, sorry.
How?
I don't see enough movies.
You need to watch The Incredibles. But if
Alright.
people in the comments, if you know what I'm talking about, he reminds me of Syndrome a lot with his childlike mannerisms and the way that he's very childish. But yeah, I went off on a tangent. I'll let you speak more. Sorry.
And yeah, it's hey, you gotta give him credit for being so ambitious that he is able to build the empire that he has. What the reason why I would rank him below Luciano is because all of that power, all of those resources, and yet he still manages to lose the final trial when he has everyone at gunpoint. He could just walk away.
Yeah.
So that makes him look silly.
Yeah, a little bit, but the villain does have to go down.
Of course.
I guess you could just sum that up to gamifying it and giving that as an excuse. But I do think that him staying behind and trying to win to make himself more happy is still in character. So it isn't like he's acting out of character. It's just that he does look a little bit silly.
Of course, it's in line with his need to be in control of everything.
All right, next character. My beloved Finnegan Hood. Now, surprisingly, I don't think. You know what? No, I'm gonna put him in Too Good for Capcom. He's so funny, and he has a lot of really. I don't know. He does cause a little bit of chaos, and he is a little bit of a wild card, but I love him for that. He's very endearing, surprisingly. I really like his banter with Phoenix, and I like. What brings him up like quite a bit for me is that final scene. We didn't get to see it while we played the game, but his final scene where he gives a farewell to Phoenix. We voice acted that after we finished the game, and that really brings him up for me because we see a moment where he's actually vulnerable for a second, but still in his own charming little way. So that's why I put Finnegan Hood.
It's funny how, in order to get that final farewell from him, you have to say you trust him, which he keeps saying you shouldn't do.
Yeah, that is quite funny. It's quite ironic.
So I would also put him in Too Good for Capcom.
Nice.
He is the things he does are very counterproductive, but he's able to do it in such a way that you don't get too mad at him.
Yeah.
Maybe his accent makes him more charming, or the fact that he was once in your profession, so he has you feel a bit of that kinship with him. I don't know what it is. Or maybe the fact
it was my voice acting, definitely.
That helped too. Like I said, his accent, and I guess he is also able to convince you that, in spite of all his underhanded, in spite of his lack of cooperation with your case, he is able to. You can believe that at the end of the day, he's trying to keep himself and his daughter safe.
Yeah.
And he is a man who trust is a foreign concept for him, unfortunately. Which segues nice into his daughter.
All right, so for me personally, like, I wouldn't say needs a rewrite. Well, maybe. I'm kind of torn between these two parts because for me, I think that her plan, in order to get accused to basically create a safe block for herself, I think that her plan is pretty smart. But everything else about her character is just so bland and one note, and it's basically just a worse version of Finnegan Hood. And I do empathize with her a little bit, but I'm gonna put her in easily right.
Same here. I agree that she was in a very bad situation, having come into contact with Luciano and having been threatened by him. She had to find a way to free herself from him, as well as get authoritative figures to start going after him without Luciano knowing that she was onto him. So her plan of getting arrested and getting to give testimony in court, the plan does make sense. Problem is that, like you said, she's too one note. You don't trust Finnegan Hood, but you don't trust her, and her lack of, I guess, trustworthiness is nowhere near as amusing. It's this act she puts on of bloodlust. It's not interesting. It gets pretty aggravating. The extent to which she keeps saying, "I killed Miss Porter," that gets very tiresome. And of course, the way she threatened Trucy, even if she never intended to harm her, and showing no remorse. You like you said, you have to look for it, but you can find something genuine about Finnegan Hood and how he feels about you. You don't have that at any point with am I forgetting her name? Jane. You don't get that at any point with her. At no point does she allow herself to be at least vulnerable enough to make up for what came before. So she needed that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. Like with Finnegan Hood, he is kind of a jerk sometimes, but he's very witty and very funny about it. He's very witty, and the most that he does is he causes chaos, and he's a little bit of a jerk. Jane, she actively threatened Trucy. She puts on this persona of like this over-the-top villain, and I just don't find that very interesting. So let's move on.
All right.
Next we have Stephen Jameson or Jimmy, whichever you prefer. Too good for Capcom. Holy shit. What a good character. What a good red herring, to be honest. Like, throughout the game, I really suspected that Jimmy was involved and he was going to be like secretly the mastermind, or he's going to be at least some part. I guess to an extent he was a part, but I thought that he was going to be more villainy when he was really just a really tragic hero. He put his all into that defense during the MN6 trial. He put his all throughout like those 5 years trying to find Pearl, and eventually that breakdown where he just starts laughing because he's solved MN6 and he realizes what that means. I just love his character so much.
Same here. The game did a great job of making his morality ambiguous, making his motivations ambiguous. I love how when he was first introduced in the middle of case 3, when on the first trial with pure madness, when he shows up with those floor plans, you were able to recognize instantly that was the voice at the end of the phone, on the other end of the phone line from the end of case 2. That was really impressive of you. I still think to this day.
Oh yeah,
but
like your voice acting and the way that you enunciated the words, I was able to catch on to that. I'm honestly still surprised that I was able to do that. But yeah.
but we're tooting our own horns.
Yeah.
I should be talking about his character.
Yeah.
So like you said, his connection to Pearl and what he does after MN6, what he dedicates his life towards doing, and what he's willing to do for the sake of justice, to see that the villain is caught and there aren't more victims, it's like Prosecutor Williamson said, a true friend to the last. And the way he serves as a morality pet for Williamson, well, maybe morality pet's not the right word, but the way that he's the voice of emotion when Williamson can't afford to be, that was a great dynamic. It was amazing seeing him as a prosecutor after how tough Williamson was being on us for the first 3 cases, and then his shtick and the way he says, look, if you're not going to go after Pearl, after Maya's grandmother, then I will. Get over here, Miss Murderer. I love those antics.
Yeah. Oh man.
So there you go. That's what I have to say about him.
Awesome. All right, next we have Salim Kushari. This is an easy amazing. I wouldn't say he's too good for Capcom because he is a pretty standard character, but I really like his food puns. They had me wheezing a little bit and like chuckling, getting a good chuckle at his food puns. They were pretty funny. And he's a beam of light in an extremely dark case, Turnabout Into the Unknown and MN6. So he's a beam of light. I really love him for that. He's very endearing, and he's very empathetic, or I'm empathetic towards him, and I'm glad that he got a happy ending.
Same here. His food puns are amusing, and it's regrettable how emotional he gets, but you need a character who does that, because it really is rotten what Christoph Gavin pulls in that trial, and it's nice to see. It's so wonderful to see Kushari, even though he is digging his own grave every time he goes on an outburst. You gotta love him when he says, the girl is not even here, yet you will say these things about her? You will not make her a villain. That was awesome of him.
Yes. And again, no recurring characters, but if I could, I would put Christoph Gavin in Too Good for Capcom. Rappa did Christoph Gavin. He did my beloved, my homeboy, my husbando. He did him a lot of justice. So,
I'm glad you like what he did.
All right. So next we have Maris Rubin, and I just don't really find her that interesting. I find her pretty bland. I don't really have much to say about her, mainly because I don't remember much from the Haunted Turnabout. Yeah, I don't really have much to say past that.
Same here. I would also put her in meh. She was very pleasant. She was it would both us as the players and Cedric are we regret that she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time and got caught up in something that wasn't her fault. So I'm glad that Cedric acknowledged that. But it is it is rather amusing to think that after the haunted turnabout is over, she and the bellboy are going to manage that hotel by themselves, huh?
Yeah. I completely forgot the bellboy was in that case, to be honest. But now that you've reminded me, yeah, I remember now.
It's all right. His main role in that case was just to provide the tragic backstory for Cedric Mapplethorpe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's okay that if you left him out.
Yeah. Okay, so next we have Meredith Fay. Now, I don't know whether to put her in amazing or too good for Capcom. Because, I mean, I don't think Capcom would ever do anything like Meredith Fay. I mean, they kind of did that with Morgan Fay, like, a little bit, but I would say I'm really struggling. I don't know where to put her. Why is Edmund Books here? I thought he was in good. Okay, there we go. What was I gonna say? Yes, I like Meredith Fay. I really like her motivations. I really like the way that her ideals clash with Maya's. Yeah, I'll put her in too good for Capcom. I really like her ideals and how they clash with Maya's, and the sense of responsibility that she had to adopt, and that she had to, the sense of responsibility she had when she was master, and that she expects that same amount from Maya, and that she thinks that Maya is very foolish for being so emotionally involved in her position as the master. So I really like Meredith Fay. Yep.
I agree with you. I would put her in the exact same spot because she represents a lot of what is sorely missing in the Ace Attorney lore and the dynamics specifically of the Fay clan. She represents a lot of the not seen disarray and discord of the Fay clan. It's hard for that to it's hard for the issues of the Fay clan to take center stage in a franchise where every game has to stand alone and the cases keep having to involve different things, even if they all tie together at the end. Capcom has certainly, once they moved on from Morgan Fay, we got nothing about the Fay clan ever again after that. So Meredith Fay is a sorely needed, she brings a lot of what we want to see about what Maya has to deal with the Fay clan, because it can't just be Morgan. There's got to be other issues with the family too. So I appreciate her for that. As for her character itself, maybe I'm biased because I voiced her, and I had a lot of fun with her voice, especially at the hospital when she decides to, like, play the heel and get you to hate her.
I got so heated at her, and I think a part of that was your voice acting.
And that's the intention. And of course, and that's the intention because because in that moment you're already pretty emotionally raw from finding out right before that Pearl ran away, and that Pearl has been hating her own life. So that's already gotten us pretty emotionally vulnerable, and then this comes along, and yeah, of course we're gonna jump at her in our current state. So, but and that only to find out that really she seems to just want to take the fall for her, whether it's Pearl or Iris that she's protecting. She she does do everything that she knows how to do to protect them both. So there is good in her, despite how rotten she is towards Maya. So there's a lot to her. We can talk about how needlessly mean she is to Maya, even with all the terrible stuff that happens to Maya, and how Meredith bears some responsibility for it because she turned to the Rivalis family for help. And yet her claims that she does care about protecting her family, we do see that, so it's not, she isn't all talk. And yeah,
Sorry, let me say something real quick before I forget. So I think when she says she cares about the family, I think it's not really that she cares about the individually like family members. It's more that she cares about the reputation of the family and the amount of power that they have. So I
that
think
too.
It's yeah. I really enjoy her character for that. Continue. Sorry.
Like I said, it's there is so much that is wrong with the Fay clan, and we need this franchise needs more than just Morgan Fay to represent it, and Meredith is a great representation of that. And it's fun to see how us drag her onto the witness stand, ready to just destroy her, only to find out that no, that's not what needs to be done. Even though she is guilty of crimes and is deservedly going to serve time for it.
I'm trying to remember, did she have a super objection like during whenever we were cross-examining her? Was there ever a super objection? If I'm trying to remember.
There was a point where she in a testimony she says, "What about Raphael Donatello? What about yourself? What about," I forget if it's Bikini or Iris. She names 3 people, and she says, "You need to get them off. You need to prove that they're innocent before you go after me."
Yes, I remember now. I also love that. That's not really a part of her character per se, but it is something that was very fun to solve, like from a gameplay perspective. So I enjoyed that.
Oh, speaking of super objections, his wasn't really a super objection, but there is a character missing from this list.
Really?
Shall I tell you who it is?
Who?
Nathan Togamera.
What? He's not here? Oh my god. Oh man. Okay, that's now I'm upset.
Do you want to pause and fix that?
Yes. Well, anyway, Stan Niff, he's here. Fernet, Stan Niff is also here. Let's go back to Williamson. I'm actually recording this time. Great. All right, so Williamson. There's a lot that I could say about him. I like how his ideals clash with Jimmy because Williamson's a more logical type. Williamson is more logical. Jimmy is more emotional type. I like that Williamson is a hypocrite and he's also pretty realistic as a character, but it's not enough to like bring down the game or the cases that he's in. And he doesn't have a shtick either. You know how Godot has the coffee thing, Man from Dark Karma has the perfection thing, and how Simon Blackwell has the samurai thing, and he's British, and the your baldness and stuff like that. Williamson is just a good-ass character, and that final scene where he's speaking to Phoenix about how he was going to use falsified evidence in case things didn't go his way. And just after how much he basically antagonized Phoenix for falsely thinking that Phoenix used false evidence. And after all that, he decides that he's going to use falsified evidence himself because he wants to get back at Carlo Luciano. I just think that that's a wonderful character moment, and there is so much more I could say, but we don't have a lot of time in the world, so I'll go to you next.
I agree with everything you said. He's not monotonous. He's not a one-trick pony who repeats a gimmick. He is just a very professional prosecutor who, yeah, he has a nasty grudge towards Phoenix, but it is eventually explained as to why he does, and unlike other prosecutors, it doesn't come at the very end of the game. It happened. He is able to really. It's by the end of the third case that he really starts to question himself, and then the fourth case is his test, which by the end he realizes that what he did to Phoenix was very wrong, and he becomes more remorseful for the way he's carried himself for what's going on years now. Throughout the fifth case, he gets more remorseful, and then by the end of the game, he has his heel realization and tells himself that he needs to atone for falling so far. So it's amazing to see his journey towards seeing how bad of a hypocrite he had become and taking responsibility for it. The way they tied him to the way they tied his arc to Phoenix's with MN6 is great writing, and he has a reasonably good dynamic with Mark, who we'll talk about later. It's not so abusive and love-hate as it is with other prosecutors and detectives.
One last thing I want to say about Williamson is that his theme fucking slaps. That gives him a lot.
Sure does.
That gives him a lot of brownie points. So next we have Wayne Parker. I think he's a pretty good character. I wouldn't say that he's amazing, but I like him. I like his dynamic with Virgil Black as being his friend, and the role that he plays as one of the people who went with Pearl to that diner. And I think I found him pretty funny. I think that his I guess shtick of getting scared easily was, I don't know, it's just pretty humorous to me, at least. And I really enjoyed his presence throughout Case 2 and the small role that he had in Case 5.
Same here. I would put him in good tier also. Him as a defendant, how easily he would start to cry or scream was very amusing, and the way that his role in the Rivales family has impacted a lot of others, not just Pearl but also Sarah Keyes. His connection to the overall plot is good enough. It was necessary for him to be there. His presence mattered. So he belongs in good for that reason, and the fact that he plays a role in the final case is that also really helps. Trucy's interrogation of him.
All right, next character we have Makoto Fay, and I really, oh my god, I might be biased here, but yeah, she's going straight to, oh, come on, man.
Oh, man.
There we go. Yep, let me go ahead and refresh that. There we go. Of course. Technical errors every single time. Alright, so yeah, I'm kind of biased here. I'm going to put Makoto straight into Too Good for Capcom. That might not actually be true, but I just find her so funny. And a lot of that was definitely Net's voice acting. Tune your horn again. But, oh man, I just loved Makoto. I loved her presence, and I was so distraught when it was revealed that she had died. That kind of broke my heart a little bit, and I got pretty emotional about it. But she is just so funny. She's so endearing. I love her.
Same here. By the way, Books It has been put back in your amazing tier, so you want to fix that?
Oh my god, come on. Go back down there.
That happens every time you refresh the page. Anyway, I would also put Gladys Porter at the top. I don't know that I commented on this in your video, but I'm glad that when I said GLaDOS, I mean Gladys. Obviously, that was intentional, and I'm glad you caught that and put an image of GLaDOS when I said it in the editing.
Yes, I've never played Portal, but I do know of GLaDOS, so yes.
I have the game, and I'd be glad to and we're already compiling a to-do list. You need to show Incredibles to me, and I need to show Portals to you. Anyway, Gladys Porter's sarcasm and bad attitude and childishness is such a joy to watch, both in and out of the court. The interview she had
the interview scene.
I don't know if I said this at the time. Maybe it showed up in the recording, maybe not, but remember how she asked, what is your favorite color?
Oh, yes.
When you said purple, she said, well, aren't you the ladies' man? Because Maya wears purple. And then when you say pink or magenta, then Gladys says, oh, so you swing that way because Edgeworth wears magenta. And then when you say white, she says that's an evil color because red, white.
I didn't even catch that.
Neither did I.
I'm just now realizing that.
I had to look that up. I didn't realize it at the time either. So, yeah, there's a lot of great jokes with her, a lot of snide remarks from her, and you liked the performance I did. I certainly loved giving her a Toko Fukawa voice. It just seems so appropriate, regardless of how genuine her paranoia actually was. And yeah, I agree. I don't think she should have been killed. You had enough victims, and her character deserved better closure than that.
I
deserved to see a better world where Luciano was no longer after her.
Yeah, I kind of agree and I kind of disagree, because I feel like the emotional impact that her death had on me was very impactful. So I'm going to disagree with you on that one, but I do wish that there is a universe where she had a happier ending. All right. Next we have Raphael Donatello. Oh my god, I loved all the jokes with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was so funny. And I'm gonna put him in amazing. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I really like his character in the way that during the trial he doesn't go down being a snitch, I guess. He goes down with honor, I guess. He says, this family used to have honor. I'm not going to snitch on who gave me the orders. And he goes down with honor, as I said, and I really like his character. It's very nice.
if it weren't for his cross-examination and his breakdown towards the end, I would have put him in good, but yeah, that does elevate him to amazing. I had a heck of a time voicing him, and his dynamic with Meredith is interesting in the fact that he wanted to accuse Iris, but Meredith did not. And he had his own agenda of wanting to shoot Maya while she did not. So I like how, despite pretending to be her butler, how at odds they actually were. Oh, and you gotta love the wrong answers of, what is this?
Oh yes, oh yes, I
right?
remember. I can't believe I forgot about that, but now that you're reminding me of, I'm having a good chuckle about that. The failure dialogue during when you're presenting stuff to him was so funny. Is there anything else? Is there anything else you want to say about him?
That's good.
All right. Next, we have Michael Ravalis. He doesn't have a lot of screen time, to be honest. So I think he goes here. He goes in meh, but he does have a lot of plot relevance, to be honest. He was the previous Don in the family, and that does mean that he carries a little bit of weight and plot relevancy, but he just doesn't have any screen time. So I feel like that kind of just puts him in meh tier.
Fair enough. It's hard for any character without screen time to get above the meh tier. I am willing to put him in good tier just because of how big of an impact he has in setting off the whole story. When it came to MN6, if I remember correctly, the backstory behind it was that Luciano had killed, because of Luciano's violent streak, I think he had killed a member of the Cadaverinis. And the way it works when it comes to crime syndicates, crime families, I guess the idea is, in an honor system, if one takes out the other, there has to be equal exchange. So the Cadaverinis wanted Luciano's head, and Michael Rivales was the one who ordered Mendirez to kill Luciano, but Mendirez chose not to, and that's what set the whole story off. You also have Rivales being one of the targets for Sir Galante. So based on that alone, Michael Rivales is, and plus once Rivales falls, there's a power vacuum for Luciano to start going in and sabotaging Mendirez's control of the family. So based on that alone, Michael Rivales' plot relevance is enough for me to put him in good tier.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can see your point.
I can understand putting him in meh, though. I can understand anyone without screen time being put in meh.
Alright, next we have Sarah Keyes, and I think that this is one of the characters where me and Nat might divulge a little bit. But I don't like...
You mean diverge?
Diverge, sorry. Why did I say divulge? Oh, man. This is what being up at like 2 a.m. does to a person. Alright, anyway. I don't like Sarah Keyes very much. She does have a pretty tragic backstory, and she does have some funny lines, but I don't know. I think it's just a thing of I don't like her talking about gore because I'm a very queasy person. So that just wasn't great for me, and I just didn't really enjoy her character that much. I think that's just like a subjective thing, I guess.
I understand. I can understand why. I can understand that perspective. I can see how one would think that.
Where are you putting her?
Amazing.
Well.
I don't know how I am so glad that I came up with the idea to voice her the way I did, and I didn't. I think just 2 days before we were going to record the Rogue Turnabout, I wasn't sure what I was going to do for her. I had put thought into it, and I'm glad I came up with what I did. It made her all that more enjoyable for me. The way she tries to pretend to flirt with Phoenix with the accent. Again, that's bias on my part. Plus the crazy music that plays as she's doing all this, and her character sprite of her hands like on her face and her elbows out.
Yes, I remember that. The music that I thought was from like a Mario Party mini game, I think.
I can tell you off camera what it is if you want to look it up again. So, yeah, she was. I enjoyed every moment of her, and it was good to see that. It was good to see that there was more to her. That there was there was actually a lot of resentment underneath all of that. That gave her an extra bit of flavor. And then to see her suddenly turn hostile at the day before the trial, and when she sees you on the roof with the harness. So I appreciated her from beginning to end.
Fair enough. I can see that point of view. All right, next we have. I'm gonna be honest, I straight up do not remember his name.
Anton Sims.
Anton Sims, yes, that's it. I don't know whether to put him in needs a rewrite or meh, but he's somewhere in between there. I would say probably like at the very bottom of meh. He serves his purpose as a character, but he is a walking stereotype. And
yep.
And that is I don't know how I feel about him. I do think that he had a little bit of depth with, I think the real killer threatened to murder his mother, I think? And that gave him a little bit of a motive, and that did flesh his character out a little bit, but not enough to put him in good or anywhere near the top of meh.
Well, because I voiced him and gave him the accent that I did, I'd put him in good. Only because I had a great time with him, and his walking, all the stereotypes and all the ways that fans of the franchise can feel called out by him is a lot of fun. It's very amusing for me, and he's a good to me, he represents the creative ways that the author was able to make the internet a part of the mystery. Using aspects about the internet to in an Ace Attorney case. I like the way that was done, and he's very central to that. So I liked it, and the one thing I don't like is that he did commit perjury in court, and we don't really see him serve time for it. He and his mother get placed in the witness protection program. That's all we hear about it.
Yeah. All right. Next, we have Renwick Smith. Immediately too good for Capcom. I love his character. I do think that his flashback where he was going through that case, I think that could have been placed at a different point in the story. I'm not really sure where. The details are a little bit hazy, but I loved his character and how he was basically thrust into one of the worst positions, like right in the middle of the smoking ring with Hemlock, and he was basically doing menial tasks for him, I believe. And I just love how sarcastic and witty he is. He has a bit of dry humor, I think. I can't really remember much, but I really liked his little shtick of writing in his notebook and basically just being kind of a sarcastic asshole to Phoenix for a lot of it. And I love I love the final scene. Well, not the final scene, but one of the final scenes during the investigation where he says, "Tell me the name of who Hemlock is. Tell me who it is." And he starts listing off, "Tell me who did this. Tell me who did this." And I was really just immersed into his character.
Same here. Again, it's hazier for me because I'm not as immersed in Contempt of Court, but I know enough to know that even if I don't feel as much attachment, he belongs in the top tier. He's a great foil towards Francisco Mendírez in terms of they are both not happy with having Phoenix as their defense attorney, but you're able to talk a lot more with him, and that's a breath of fresh air compared to the final defendant for Turnabout Into the Unknown.
Trust me or do not, or something like that. Something along those lines.
Exactly. Believe me or don't. Trust me or don't. Ugh. So, I agree with what you said about how bad of a deck he was handed. How he was just trying to become an aspiring detective, and then his friendship with Brisbane is a really wonderful thing to see. What they mean to each other in spite of how bad their outlook on life has each become, and how he's been managed to still try to function and do his job and carry on despite being under Hemlock's thumb the entire time. What kind of a toll that must have taken on him. Because we saw how much that took out of Phoenix having to do as Hemlock said, and he had to do that for years.
Man's got a lot of restraint and a lot of perseverance, I gotta say that.
Alright,
next we have Detective Robert Snow. We've already discussed him at length with Hemlock, but I'm gonna slap him right next to Hemlock up here since they're basically the same person, just that Hemlock, is more villainous and more threatening. But Detective Snow, his dry humor made me laugh quite a few times, and I think this is just a personal thing, but I loved giving him the Australian accent, even though he's canonically British, but giving him Australian accent was very fun for me, and I had a lot of fun voice acting him. So I don't really have much to say since I already talked about him at length with Hemlock, but I love Detective Snow. He was very fun. And the
Sounds
betrayal
good.
hit me hard. The betrayal hit me so hard, if you guys remember that.
Of course, you, just like with Bobby Fulbright, you grow attached to this character. I love how Hemlock said, "Sorry if you were getting attached to old Robbie Champ, but he ain't real." For me, Robert Snow, actually I would put him in just amazing.
Okay.
Mostly because his nonstop sarcasm, for me, it gets grating at times.
Yeah, I can see that.
I do love at the end in the final trial day of Turnabout Snow, he says, "The defense is ready, Your Honor." how he's at the bench with you. That's good stuff.
It really makes you attached to him that he acts as your co-counsel during that trial.
Yep. Exactly.
Those your thoughts?
Yep.
All right. Next we have Victor Timmons. All I like about him is his pun name, and that's about it. Matt. That's all I have to say.
Yep. Meh for me too. He's a member of the Rivalis family, and that's the extent towards what the tutorial case of conflict of interest has to the overarching story. When he says in Kylie Washington's breakdown, we get a scene where he says, "I'm willing to take the rap from old Mikey, but you're going down with me." At the time he says that, we don't even know who old Mikey is. So that line doesn't hit until after the fact, until you go back and revisit it. And since the parts, and that's inevitable for most victims. Most victims are not going to be able to get out of the meh tier.
Yeah.
One thing that I said that was not caught in the recording because you weren't recording at some point. The only thing I said about Stan Niff was that he has similarities to Dumas Gloomsbury in the sense that if it weren't for his death, the maiden that you end up defending in both Turnabout Time Traveler and the Haunted Turnabout would have been the victim instead. But that was all I wanted to say.
All right. Now we have Titus Crump. And for me, immediately amazing.
Yep.
So funny, so great. I love Vex Volper acting as Crump. That was very fun, and honestly something that I did not see coming until it was basically spelled out for me. I did not see that one coming. I did not notice his eyes. But to be honest, I don't know if I would have been able to, because I don't know. That was just something that I wasn't really paying attention to. But I really like Titus Crump. He's very funny, very charming character. That's all I really have to say. He has so much personality.
Same here. I would also put him in amazing. I wonder how different Contempt of Court would have been if we had worked on it together.
I feel like a lot of these characters would be bumped up by quite a bit.
It's and also his theme.
Yes.
You know that? Have you
Yes.
heard that piece? I'm sure you have.
I'm pretty sure I've probably heard it somewhere at some point. But yeah. Yeah, his theme is pretty cool.
All of his I am a millionaire of sorts and therefore don't require what you would classify as a job. Really, you just need to voice his lines for yourself, and that you're gonna fall in love with him.
Man,
all right.
If only you would join me, or if I had made my Contempt of Court series after I had grown more extroverted as a content creator, maybe I could have had more personality as Titus Crump, to be honest.
It's okay. I'm glad you did Conflict of Interest second.
Yeah. All right, next we have Virgil Black, aka Sir Galante. Too good for Capcom. He's one of my favorite characters from that game. I love his motivations. I love him as Sir Galante. He has so much personality, and a lot of that. I've made quite a few comments about Net's voice acting throughout this entire tier list, but really, I have to say it again. Your voice acting for Sir Galante was superb, and that really made me attached to his character, and I loved him as a culprit. And the fact that he was a victim in case 5 was pretty sad. What were you going to say?
And I loved your voice acting of him as Virgil Black.
Thank you.
So we both had a great time with him. it was amazing him as a culprit, him being a vigilante, and we never you noticed that's a very villain name, but both of us missed the fact Virgil vigilante.
Oh my god!
Also
wait, no.
Black.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice that. Wow. Wow.
Neither did I until much later. I think someone
That's
in the
so
comments
clever.
spelled it out for us.
Yes, I can't remember who that is. I'll put a blurb of text on who made that comment. But yeah. You have any more thoughts about him?
I'm really happy that you liked what I did for him. I enjoyed what I did for him. There were some folks in the comments who disagreed with how we ultimately bring him down by getting him to have a heel realization, but I loved it, and it certainly was a nice a nice middle finger to this stupid need for circumstantial evidence. I like how Phoenix even lampshaded it by saying, I thought the jury system was supposed to get rid of this.
Yes. I also love that part of the Rogue Turnabout, and it's a big reason why I love that case so much. I think it's generally just like kind of seen as a decent case, but I love that case so much, particularly because of how Virgil Black goes down. And I love it because of the fact that you don't have to have concrete evidence. If you can get the culprit to confess and you can do it through other means, I feel like that's a lot more interesting. And it's very similar to how it's done in the Great Ace Attorney. Spoilers for the Great Ace Attorney 1, The Adventure of the Unspeakable Story, but basically, in order to get everything to go down, you have to present the 2 discs with the music box to Grayson in order to get him to confess, in order to take down Ashley Milverton. And I think it's very similar in that fashion. I think it was done extremely well.
All right.
Next, we have Vic Barrows. I'm going to put this guy in Meb because I do not remember much about his character. I remember that he was a ghost hunter, and that is basically the extent of what I remember about Vic Barrows.
Same here. He existed. I would. Part of me would even consider his primary role is red herring. The fact that he apparently worked with Terry Grayson, I feel like more could have been done with him. I almost would put him in needs a rewrite simply because you could have done more with him. And maybe just because I feel like someone needs to go there besides Jane.
Yeah.
Maybe that's unfair of me.
Well, we feel how we feel about these characters, so if only one of them is in one tier, then that's how it's got to be. But I do agree with you to a certain extent. All right. Next, we have Vincenzo Cicatrice. I see a lot of people rate this character very highly, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't really understand it. I don't find him very interesting, like, at all. I don't really vibe with his character design. I don't really like... he does have a pretty important role in the story, to be fair, but I just don't really vibe with him. I don't feel much. I do think because of how much relevance he has, I think that does put him in good tier, but he's not going any higher than that for me.
Same here. Good is as good as he gets. I also... The blue hair that's straight like that. I thought that it looks weird on him. I was very disappointed by the fact that he never comes back after the first case. You could have you could have tied him into the final case somehow. I don't know how, but you could have. Oh my god. Have you watched Visual Novelty's YouTube channel?
No, I have not.
He was the one who got me into these fan games.
Mm-hmm.
There have been times where I've stolen some of his remarks, some of his opinions. I hope you watch his content someday, but when the reveal of Hemlock goes down, as Phoenix is talking to Hemlock, at one point Visual Novelty says, I suspected Vinny. I really suspected Vinny because we haven't seen him.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He could have had more of a role throughout the cases. I'm not really sure why he did not, but
the only reason I put him in the reasons I put him in good rather than meh is because the way that his final case does leave a huge emotional scar on him, and also the fact that he's not having any of Vex Vulper's shit. The fact that when Vex Vulper is boasting about when the trial first starts out and Vex Vulper says something about failure, and he says, you can't see that you're gonna fail this case, and then Vincent says, I can see the failure right in front of me.
Damn. I don't remember that line. I need to go and rewatch my series.
Oh, it's great. And when Vex first shows up, Vincent is thinking into himself, and this indignant jackass is... So for that, he just barely scrapes into good tier.
Fair enough.
And that segues nice into the best character for me we've ever seen.
I would almost agree. He's definitely second best for me. I think Obadiah Williamson just barely overtakes him, but Vex Vulper is such a good antagonist, such a good culprit. He has a really sympathetic backstory. His role, his mannerisms, and the way that he speaks are just so unique and so fun. He has so much personality. The way that he acts as Titus Crump is very fun. His little puppet thing, the boogeyman, he's gonna come and get ya. Just so many great one-liners, and I had so much fun voicing this character. I think that's a big reason why he's up here. I think the only negative about him is that he looks extremely like Godot, just straight up the body type. But I think that's really the only negative that I have about Vex Vulper.
For me, he's the best character out of this entire list. He is such a dick. By all accounts, we should hate him as much as the characters in universe do, and yet somehow we don't. Somehow it's laughable. Such as the part where he says, "Gee, my God, Errol, I took your eye out. Get over it." It was a pretty good shot, though, right?
Oh man.
And then everyone yells at him, "Testimony now!"
And
yeah.
Man. I'm just remembering the antics where the judge just, like, the judge is usually like a pretty passive character, but Vex Vulper is one of the only characters to get the judge to get his shit together and to, like, lock down and to get the court to a standstill. Man, I'm just remembering Turnabout of the Snow and how many funny moments that Vex Vulper had.
The judge, on numerous occasions, having to say over and over again, "Mr. Vulper, your life is on the line here. Take this seriously." It's amazing. Like, how is a character this reprehensible and yet this much fun to watch? I don't know what the ingredient is, how it works, but it does.
Special sauce. That special sauce was put into the cooking pan when Mr. Carnivore was making this character. And I don't know what that sauce is, but it's something else. Alright. Next we have Kylie Washington. Honestly, I don't really like her that much. Like, she's kind of entertaining with the song thing. I'll put her in good. I really like the song thing where, like, after a few testimonies, after a few presses, she'll say, oh, this is getting kind of boring. Do you want something else? And then we put on a different... we select the option, and it gives us a different song to listen to while we're cross-examining her. And that was very fun. I think that she just doesn't do much for me. I think that she's just a meh culprit, and god damn it, Google. Let's go ahead and fix that. Let's go ahead and fix that. But yeah, Kylie Washington just doesn't really do much for me. So I'm gonna leave Kylie Washington there in the good tier.
Understandable. And as for me, again, I'm being biased because I voiced her. I would put her in amazing. Maybe I'm grading her on a curve because of the fact that she is a tutorial case culprit, and any tutorial case culprit that brings something unique, I am very appreciative of. Kind of like with Peace Lobben Understanden. She has that kind of energy. I like what I did with her in terms of the way her voice sounds. It was fun at the end where she said, "I had to do what I did. Everyone was going to hate me."
Yeah.
And if we ever get around to making a breakdown compilation, I will do hers, and it will be picked up by the microphone this time, damn it.
I think everything is aligned correctly now.
Yep.
There we go. Yep. Everything looks correct to me as far as I can see. Yeah, okay.
Oh, wait a minute. You
What?
put Schadenfreude in good?
Oh no, I put him in amazing. There
I
we
was
go.
the one who put him in... I think I was the one who put him in good.
Oh. Oh yeah, you did. My bad.
Alright.
Having memories. Fucking Google,
all right.
Google is not making this any easier. Okay. Next we have Mark Waters, instantly. I'm gonna be honest. He might be my third favorite character. I like him a lot. Most of this is not going to be aligned, but I love Mark Waters so much. Oh my god, the tsundere moments. The tsundere moments, man. I was laughing so hard every single time every single time anything came out of this man's mouth, I was laughing. And I just had so much joy every time he was on screen. The fact that he goes from being a likable character, or not like a likable, like a person who is very receptive towards Phoenix and very kind, to being very antagonistic once he gets accused. That is such a fun, like, flip of the switch, or, what is the word I'm looking for? It's a very fresh thing to see. I just love Mark Waters, and he has a pretty sad backstory, and he gets, the justice. Carlo Lucian goes down, and I was scared when he got hit with that knife, but it's good to know that he's okay.
Yeah, goodness sakes, not having to face the same fate as both, God, I can't remember his wife's name, darn it. Both her and his sister-in-law.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Mark Waters, I'll put him in top tier also. I love how he is a breath of fresh air from Gumshoe and Robert Snow. He's a more helpful detective and less bumbling. His dynamic with Williamson, like I said before, is something new compared to what we've seen from the main games, as far as how prosecutors and investigators and detectives interact. And he comes in clutch so many times. He does a lot of heroic things. He's able to...
That scene with Trucy, where Jane wasn't gonna kill her, obviously, but that scene where he comes in and saves Trucy, that one of my favorite scenes, by far.
Same here. And how he helps with guarding Maya. And he's there with her when she wakes up. And just times where he's able to even when he's hostile towards you, the investigation you do with him inside the Fay Clan manor.
Where he breaks the door down. Now I'm laughing about that. Oh, that's also one of my favorite scenes. Oh my god, Mark Waters.
The jokes he tells you. How can you tell when a lawyer is lying? His lips are moving.
Oh man.
So yeah, glad he was. It was good to have him in the game.
Oh, and my Markiplier voice. That was a unique choice. That was a very unique choice. I don't know if many other people would have gone with something like that, but
you pulled it off well.
I had fun with it. All right. Yes, this is gonna look off in editing because we've now entered the double tier. But next we have Morag Weaver. I found her pretty interesting. I think she was a pretty fun little character. I think a lot of that is because I had a lot of fun voicing her, even if it did kind of kill my throat quite a few times, and I had to cough and like take some cough medicine because her voice was like actively hurting me. But I still think that she's a fun little character. She's like an elementary school teacher, I think. And the little stickers thing, the little sticker sprite that Phoenix had, that was very fun. I just find her pretty endearing.
Sadly, I have not seen all of her testimony. There's chunks of Contempt of Court that I'm blanking on, but I remember she was very entertaining, so she goes in good tier for me as well.
Nice.
I do remember her introduction of Phoenix was the only one who said please. So
oh, you're cutting out. You're glitching out. You're glitching out.
It was amusing how because Phoenix was the only one who said please, she was the only one he was the only one she didn't scold.
Yes.
Whereas she told both the judge and Edgeworth to mind their manners. And Edgeworth, upon introducing her, said, "I ask for patience from the court with this witness."
Edgeworth always gets the worst witnesses. He can never get them to say their names.
Alright. Unless they're Emma.
Yeah. Alright, now we have Pure Madness or Masked Woman, whichever one you prefer. I don't need to explain myself. Okay, fine, I will explain myself. I feel like a lot of people might find her infuriating, and I can definitely see why, but I don't know, man. I just found her so funny, and I love that her entire goal was just to cause chaos, and that's it. And that was just really fun. I don't know. I feel like I'm biased with this one, but I just found her so fun. Anyway, go ahead, Ned.
Same here. She can go on a given day. Maybe I might put her in good. She might switch spots between good and amazing. We can put her in amazing for now. And yeah, it's what is it about her that works while Jane does not? Maybe it's because at the time of that trial, things aren't as like when Jane shows up, it's the last day, it's the final trial, it's right before we then cross-examine Francisco Mendírez. It doesn't seem like the right spot for her antics. Whereas in Turnabout on the Web, it's the first day, like later on we're going to deal with Nathan Togamera, which, since you've had to refresh, he's disappeared from the list again.
I'll add that once we get to the end.
Sure thing. So things don't quite feel so high stakes and intense yet. So her antics are we can deal with them better, perhaps.
We can tolerate.
I do appreciate that the last that you see of her, she is able to, like, when you find out that Sal Manella was actually just another account she created, and you say, okay, that means there was one less person involved in that flame war, so you bear even more responsibility for it, and she is actually able to say, yeah, I've thought about what you've said, and I don't feel very good about what I did.
She takes accountability while Jane doesn't.
Exactly.
All right.
And of course, and also, I appreciate that. I was, even though I couldn't possibly pull it off to the extent that I wanted to, I was very happy that I was able to. I like that. I was not sure what kind of voice I wanted to give her. You voiced her at first, and I can't remember what you did for her, but I remember I was fine with it. I thought you were doing good. And because, especially since I had no clue what to do, what I ultimately settled on was to voice her like the actress Vela Lovell, who has played Heather in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and Mermista in She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. I wouldn't have expected you to have seen either of those shows.
I have not, so no.
But I sent you that compilation video, so you got to hear it.
Yeah.
And I thought that fit her.
All right, we have two more characters.
All I wanted to say.
Well, technically three more characters, actually. But
right.
Next we have Walter Wade Webb. The pun is absolutely amazing, and I'm honestly going to put him in good. I think his relationship with Edmund Books really carries him, and I just, even, like, he is a victim, so he doesn't have much screen time at all, but I don't know. I found his final letter to Edmund Books to be so, like, just so sad, and I got emotional at the end of Turnabout on the Web. I just loved his character, even though he was just a victim.
I agree. I would also put him above Meh. I would put him in good. I agree with what you said about his relationship with Books, and I would also add to that, I like how the story made you think he was an asshole victim when in actuality he wasn't. It was a trick. It was a lie that Nathan Togamera told us. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. All right. Now we have Francisco Mendírez. This is probably my fourth favorite character.
Nice.
I love his design. He's badass. The Russian accent that you gave him, I thought that was very, very... I don't know, it definitely added to the character for me, and I love how complex he is, even though he is he's really a dick to Phoenix throughout almost every single encounter, every single conversation they have. He's just not being a nice guy, but that makes sense. He's not able to trust people very easily because of what Carlo Luciano has done to him, but I love his backstory. I love just... I don't know what it is about it. I don't know what it is about him. I think it's another Vex Volper situation for me, at least. There's just some kind of special sauce in his character that just makes me enjoy him a lot.
Same here. he is such a pain in the ass as a defendant, and yet he pisses you off. He makes you mad to the point where you want to spend more time just trying to chip away at him, trying to figure him out. So he's not. So that works in his favor. What he was to the story, both in MN6 and in the final case, it is amazing how what he has done and what he does to protect it. How do I put it? I think Visual Novelty said it best. He is, and Phoenix also put it best. He's very hardened. He knows what he's doing, and he knows what information he has to withhold. And so you understand why he is as stubborn as he is. And I love the twist that Francisco Mendírez, who we thought we had been chasing all this time, is actually not the big bad.
Yeah. That's another big reason why I enjoy Francisco Mendírez so much. He's a good twist. A twist on the formula.
The accent I gave him, it doesn't fit when he says "dang nabbit."
Yeah, it doesn't really fit, but I don't know, for every other line that he has.
All right, and I guess we'll finish off with Nathan Togamera.
Gotta add him back in.
All right.
There he is. Gotta add him back in over here. There he is. All right, Nathan Togamera. Too good for Capcom. I love him. Like,
nice.
I think at the end of Turnabout on the Web, I didn't really think much of him at the time, but I love the voice that you gave him. I love his mannerisms of speaking. I love how much of a slime bag he is. That super objection where I really had to think about it, that definitely added to it. He was such a little snake in the grass, and finally being able to take him down with that super objection was so satisfying and so cathartic. So I think Nathan Togamera definitely gets to be up here, especially with the role that he played in Case 5.
Absolutely. He has... Again, this is bias. I don't like the voice I gave him, so I would put him... And that drags him down to amazing. But again, that's just my own bias, because I don't think I made him as enjoyable. I didn't make him as enjoyable as I should have made him, I don't think. But I agree with everything you said. He has... It's fascinating how he was part of the team that helped get Mendírez off the hook. He helped sabotage the case. And it's also fascinating how he wasn't the one who killed Cody Hackins, yet he took the fall for it. And it's amazing that he was able to climb up to the ranks of FBI all on fake documents, and was able to obtain as much power and ability to fudge up cases with his privileges and permissions that he could. So he was... So taking him down was definitely a great accomplishment. And yeah, the having to figure out the two hackers, whose person they hacked into, and providing two pieces of evidence, that was a hell of a challenge, and you did amazing.
Alright, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and look at the top tier, and we're going to sort it out to the top 5 characters. Just for fun. Just for fun. So,
Alright.
I'm going to move Francisco Mandira's up there. Let's move Hemlock over to about there. And yeah, I think I'm satisfied with this. Obadiah Williamson at the top, Vex Volper 2nd place, Hemlock 3rd place, Mark Waters 4th place, and Francisco Mandira's 5th place.
Sounds good. For me, Vex Volper at the top, and Jimmy 2nd, and then Luciano 3rd, Hemlock 4th, and then maybe it's a 5th place. It would have to be on a given day. It might be either Porter, Meredith, or Black. One of those 3. One of those 3 could switch out between 5th place, but there you go.
Nice. Well, that's the tier list. So, this is my tier list. Go ahead and judge it however you want. This is Jane down here. You can't really see her now because double-decker tier list. And here, same thing. Jane and Vic Barrows are down here. And this is Net's tier list, so go ahead and judge his tier list as well. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much for watching.
Of course. And I will see you guys in whichever video I do next. I don't know which one that's going to be, but yep, that's it. See you next time. Special thanks to these YouTube members for their support. Maddie Gamer 329. If you'd like to become a YouTube member and get benefits such as early access to videos and a shout out, then click the link in the description below.